yeah, let's start with that category. Yoga, yogic practices, yogic philosophy. In the US, we think of when somebody says yoga, we think
Yeah.
of going to a yoga class
Yeah.
and doing the poses, and like that's what yoga is.
Yeah.
And when you really start to dig in a little bit more into yoga, you realize, oh, that's just one element of it.
Mm-hmm.
So Ashtanga is the eight spoked wheel of yoga,
Okay.
and each of those spokes represents a different element of yogic practice. So
Oh.
to be a yogi is to practice a philosophy, a lifestyle philosophy that incorporates the eight elements of a yogic lifestyle.
Okay, that makes total sense.
So when we go to yoga class, we are just tapping into one little chunk of what yoga really is. And yogic, so yogis transcend out of the third dimension all the time. And
Yeah.
many of them operate in higher realms all the time. Many of them have the capability of going in and out of realities as they please. Many of them have what would be considered magic powers.
Mm-hmm.
This is all because they have dedicated themselves to practices that raise their frequency and raise their vibration.
I'm getting chills.
Yeah. The more you, and like we were saying earlier, the more you raise your vibration, the more you change your frequency, the more everything changes for you, and the more access you get to knowledge and understandings of things beyond what maybe you've been given access to so far. There's a lot of things to access. There's a lot of information to access. There's a lot out there that you just have to say, well, I want some of that. I would like some of that access, please. And then you have to figure out how to get the access. And in my experiences, incorporating a yogic lifestyle is the easiest way to daily work on raising your frequency.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So there are absolutely more esoteric elements of a yogic philosophy. I'm going to talk today more about the core, like the core teachings, the core concepts, because I think they are easy enough to understand that anybody who's listening can write them down and say, all right, I'm going to start integrating some of this stuff. And I don't need really anybody to teach me. It's just, I just need to teach myself and be invested in the process.
I think that's going to be great and so helpful.
Yes. So we think of yoga, like I said, of being the physical poses. A lot of people also think of yogis, a practitioner of yogic philosophy, a yogi. Yogis are often portrayed as sitting lotus style and meditating. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the next perceptions of yogis is that meditation is the way that everything gets done. But in reality, meditation falls much, much further down in the list, in the order of those 8 limbs.
Okay.
The first 2 limbs of yogic principles and philosophies are called, number 1 and number 2 are yamas and niyamas. And there's an amazing book, very easy to read, called The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele. And she breaks down the yamas and the niyamas in a very easy to read and understand short book. And it's great for everybody to have if you're interested in understanding more. The yamas and the niyamas can be broken down into several subcategories. So I'm not necessarily going to go into all of the subcategories. That's best for like your independent reading, perhaps. But I'll give you the general concepts behind the yamas and the niyamas. Yamas is YAMAS, and the yamas are a set of ethical standards that incorporate personal integrity, personal behaviors, and personal conduct. It's basically, I believe that there's 5 subcategories. It's like the things that you want to do to just be a good human being.
Got it. Yeah.
And so yeah, right. It's probably the best place to start when you're trying to become something bigger and better, is to start acting just nice, you know? Yeah. So the ethical standards, integrity, behavior, conduct, those are the yamas. The niyamas are a set of self-disciplines that are focused more on spirituality. So these are things that you implement into your own inward process. That the yamas are more external. They're the things that you do for others, or when you're interacting with others. It's the way that you conduct yourself in the outside world. The niyamas are the internal self-disciplines that you put in place that assist you in connecting with your deepest spiritual elements.
Got it.
And when we practice self-discipline and we connect ourselves with our deepest spiritual elements, we are once again shifting our personal frequency, because the niyamas are they're same concept as the yamas. It's the things that you do because they just make you a better person.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The next limb, the next spoke is asana, and asana is the postures, the poses. So really, when you're going to yoga class, you are going to practice asana.
Okay. Yep.
Although many yoga classes incorporate several of these limbs or these spokes. The postures, when in the previous podcast, I was discussing how to the importance of regulating the body's energetic systems. And in Chinese medicine, we have Qigong, which is postures and flowing movements. And asana in yogic practice is the same idea. It is using the physical body, the physical and the energetic body together to increase not only your physical structure, but also your energetic properties. So asana is a combination of physical and energetic, as well as a spiritual connection through the whole process. Pranayama is breathing. So this is another spoke on the wheel. Pranayama is something that it can be very, very simple to practice in its basic forms. It can also be something that you perhaps want to have somebody teach you the proper methods to certain pranayama exercises. But breathing is one of the easiest ways for us to connect mind and body together. Yeah. So when we practice different breathing sequences, we are creating different responses in our brain and body, and breathing itself can actually take you into a transcendental state.
Yeah.
I don't know, for the first time ever. A few months ago, I experienced a somatic breathing event, and somatic breathing is the opposite of what I usually do for meditation. Meditation for me is very slow, deep, rhythmic box breathing.
Yep.
Somatic breathing is quite the opposite. It is very rapid and forceful breathing that doesn't stop. And each breath just flows into the next, and you're actually breathing the opposite way as we usually teach. We usually teach to, like, when you inhale, your belly should go out, and then as you exhale, it should go in. In somatic breathing, you reverse that. So you kind of have to be thinking at first of how this is working, and but once you get into that rhythm, there's a certain sequence to it. I can't remember the exact minutes that you do it, but the first round you do like 4 minutes of the breathing, and then you do 2 minutes of rest, and then the next one you do 2 minutes of breathing and then 1 minute of rest. Or no, I'm sorry, it gets longer in breathing, less rest time.
Okay,
but
yeah.
The wild things can happen. And your body actually, from what I experienced, especially I was in a group setting, so there were like 60 people there.
Wow.
And what started happening is, now that I'm thinking back on it, elements of people's shadow hurt elements of themselves, trauma elements that are within them started coming out with those breathing exercises. So in like a somatic breathwork workshop, we'll say, people are releasing energy. They are releasing trauma that's been stored within them through the breathing, and people are crying and people are screaming and people are like really like having a very profound, deep experience. And mine was also profound, but everybody's going to have a different set of responses based off of what needs to happen in that moment. But just the breathing element and breathing in certain patterns and certain rhythms has the ability to take us other places and to create very like profound physiological responses in our body.
Yes.
Also, interestingly, when you do somatic breathing, it increases the amount of DMT that your lungs are producing.
Okay.
And so many of the transcendental states are psychedelic in nature because we have the capability of creating psychedelic chemicals within our body just through breathing.
Right.
So I find that pretty fascinating as well. So just by breathing, you can have a psychedelic experience, and we call that like a transcendental moment. But transcendental and psychedelic may kind of be the same thing, in many regards.
Yeah.
So
the fact that we do it ourselves shows you it's pretty important.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Like anything we can do for ourselves or that is available from the earth, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's like, okay, well, they're there for a reason.
Yes, definitely.
I think we should be doing something with this. Yeah, it's a great point. Going back to the yoga stuff, because I tend to digress very easily. We're moving into more of the spokes on the wheel that are less about the physical body and more about the mind and soul. Okay. So the next heading is pratyahara, pratyahara, and pratyahara is the process of going internally. It is the process of withdrawing. It's practicing withdrawal from the external world and going internal.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And certainly you can do this. This can be practiced in a lot of different ways, and you can withdraw from the external world, but still operate within it. So this isn't meaning like you must go into a room by yourself and not come out for a while. It's not
Right.
necessarily that. It is figuring out, mastering, being able to take yourself out of all of this external stimuli and reside within yourself.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
And to just be able to do that. The next principle is dharana. Dharana is focusing on concentration, slowing your mind and concentrating on single elements.
Okay.
So we pull ourselves away from the external world, and then we choose to zoom in on an object, a thing, a concept, an idea, and slowing our mind repeatedly so that we can just hone in on that one speck that we are wanting to focus on.
Yeah.
Which then leads to a concept called dhyana, which dhyana is meditation.
Okay.
Dhyana is when you get when you have drawn yourself away from the external world, when you have slowed your mind to begin concentrating on a single focused object or thing or concept. When that goes uninterrupted, then you have reached a state of meditation or dhyana.
Got it. Yes. Okay. Yep.
From dhyana, then you can move up into the final level, which is samadhi. Samadhi is transcendence. It is connecting to the divine. It is, you have put all of these principles and philosophies into place, and you've practiced them, and all of them are raising and changing your personal vibration and frequency to a state in which you are kind of free from the shackles of the 3D operating system.
Sure.
Essentially, like, going through these steps is your way of breaking out of the matrix, if you want to think of it that way. You know, it's your steps. These are your steps, because they all change your consciousness, and they all change your frequency.